Have you ever felt like your own mind just has a mind of its own? One minute you're trying to focus, and the next you're completely lost in a daydream or tangled up in worries. Well, you're definitely not alone. It's a human struggle that's been explored for thousands of years. In this explainer, we're going to dive into some of the most direct teachings on the nature of the mind, straight from the Buddha, to see what they can show us about how to gain a little more clarity and maybe even some control.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start by looking at how our mind gets captured in the first place. Then, we'll get into the inner obstacles that keep it stuck. After that, we'll compare the two big states of mind, the untamed versus the tamed, before uncovering the mind's brilliant natural state. And finally, we'll look at the actual path to cultivating wisdom.
So, first things first, the core problem. Why is our attention so easily hijacked? Well, the Buddha identified a very clear, very immediate cause, the world that's constantly pouring in through our senses.
At the very heart of this entire teaching is one Pali word, chittam. Now, this is what we're talking about when we say the mind. It's not just our thoughts, it's our entire capacity for awareness. Think of it like the screen on which our whole experience plays out. The texts say it's the forerunner of everything we experience and, this is key, that it changes incredibly fast.
So what has the power to take over this citta? The Buddha was incredibly direct about this. He basically said that he sees nothing else that so completely seizes and captivates the mind as these 5 things: appealing sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and physical sensations. These are the gateways through which the world just rushes in and grabs our focus. Okay, so if those are the triggers from the outside, what about the turmoil they create on the inside? Let's shift from the outer world to the inner obstacles, the 5 big mental hindrances that cloud up our clarity from within.
The first, and probably the most powerful hindrance, is kamachando, or sensuous desire. The texts say this pops up when we focus unwisely on something we find attractive. And the antidote? Well, it isn't about suppressing it. It's about shifting your perception, actively looking at the unattractive or the impermanent side of that very same thing.
Next up, you've got its total opposite, vyaparu, or ill will. This is all the anger, the resentment, the aversion that bubbles up when our mind gets fixated on something it dislikes. The direct counter, as this slide shows so well, is the intentional practice of metta, which is loving kindness or just a genuine goodwill towards everyone and everything.
Oh, we all know this one, thinamindam. It's that heavy, dull feeling of sloth and torpor, right? When the mind just feels sluggish and it doesn't want to make any effort. The way to cut through that fog is to intentionally stir up the aramaga dhatu, the element of energy, of initiative, of just getting started.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have uddhachakukucham. That's restlessness and worry. This is the classic monkey mind that just can't settle down. It comes from an uncalm mind, and the solution, as you can see, is the direct cultivation of mental tranquility, or chetaso vipassamo. And finally, there's visichika, or skeptical doubt. Now, this isn't healthy questioning. This is that crippling uncertainty that just paralyzes the mind. The texts say it comes from unwise attention, and its antidote is the practice of yoniso manasikaro, which means paying wise, systematic attention to things as they actually are.
So, here's the crucial point. Being overrun by these hindrances, or learning how to work with them, it leads to 2 fundamentally different ways of being. And this isn't just a small difference, it literally changes everything.
Just look at the words they use to describe this. An undeveloped mind is called adantam, or untamed. It's unguarded, uncultivated, and the text is crystal clear. It leads to great harm. But, in contrast, a mind that's been developed, or pavatam, is described as tamed and guarded, and this state is said to lead to immense benefit. To make this even clearer, the teachings give us this really powerful metaphor. Think of the untamed mind, the one clouded by those 5 hindrances, as a lake that's been completely churned up. It's muddy, it's murky, it's turbulent. If you're standing on the shore, you can't see the shells or the fish or anything at the bottom. There's just no clarity at all. But when that mind is tamed, when the hindrances are allowed to calm down, it becomes like that very same lake after all the mud is settled. It becomes clear, still, serene. Now the person on the shore can see everything perfectly, just as it is. This clarity isn't something that's added. It's what's revealed when all the disturbances just stop.
Now, here's where things get really interesting. What do these teachings say about the mind's original fundamental state? It turns out it's not naturally muddy. Actually, it's the exact opposite.
The Buddha makes this pretty radical statement.
Babasara midam chittam. Luminous is this mind. This suggests that the mind's intrinsic nature is radiant, it's bright, it's pure. Like a diamond, its natural state is one of brilliance.
So the obvious question is, okay, why doesn't it feel luminous most of the time? The explanation given is that this radiant nature is temporarily stained or defiled by what are called Aṅguttaranikāya upekilesehi, which basically means visiting defilements. The classic analogy is the sun. The sun is always shining, but sometimes it's just obscured by passing clouds.
And this is the crucial point, really the heart of the whole teaching, because these defilements, the hindrances, the greed, the anger, are merely visitors. They are not the nature of the mind itself. And what that means is that the mind can be freed from them. The luminosity is never destroyed, it's only covered over. It can always be uncovered again.
Okay, so let's move to our final section and see how this all builds towards a practical path. If the mind is naturally pure but just temporarily clouded, how exactly do we clear away the clouds and let that luminosity shine through?
Well, the texts lay out several key qualities we need to cultivate. This slide shows 4 really important ones. Appamado, which is a kind of diligent, careful watchfulness. Virya Rambo, that arousing of persistent energy we saw earlier. Yona Somanasikaro, that crucial skill of wise attention. And, interestingly, Kalyanamittata, which means having admirable friends. Recognizing that the people we surround ourselves with have a huge impact on our state of mind.
And what's all this practice for? The texts are really emphatic about this. While gains in wealth or relationships or reputation are fine, the greatest and most worthwhile pursuit of all is panyawuddhi, the growth of wisdom. This is held up as the absolute supreme goal. And this isn't just a gentle suggestion. It's presented as a direct, active instruction. The phrase is, you should train yourselves. It implies a conscious, deliberate effort to cultivate this inner quality above everything else. Now, this might sound like a monumental task, but the teachings give us one final, really empowering piece of information. The mind, our sittam, is lahu parivartam. There is nothing else, the Buddha says, that changes so quickly. Its very nature is to be changeable. And this just perfectly illustrates the ultimate takeaway. Because the mind is so quick to change, it means it's trainable. It's not some fixed, static thing. Its direction is not set in stone. This ancient analysis doesn't just diagnose the problem, it hands the steering wheel directly over to us, leaving us with this one very potent question to think about.